With the release of version 2.7 of my repo, I figured there's been a whole lot of changes to the point that the previous video that goes over how to make the most of my repo is now pretty much redundant, I guess. Like there's too much that has changed. So today we're going to be going over how to get the most out of my repo, kind of give a brief overview of how to work things and get started, and then go from there, I suppose. So as a preface, this video is going off version 2.7 in the repo. If you're watching this video and there have been releases since then obviously things have changed and you may run into some inconsistencies. But with that, we can pretty much dive directly into our first topic, which is the Wiki. While this video has the potential to eventually go out of date, this Wiki page on the repo will be maintained throughout the lifecycle of the scripts. So while you may run into an inconsistency in this video, you can refer back to the wiki and probably get a more accurate answer. So the homepage of the wiki pretty much goes over how to get things rocking and rolling and get started, and more or less does the job of this video for you. But if you're not one to read, then let's go through this, I suppose. My repo is a collection of scripts that is designed to help make working within Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and Windows more optimized and efficient. These scripts only work in AutoHotkey version 2.0 and do not work in 1.1. The only releases that work within AHK 1.1 in my repo are the first 3 releases. Obviously, they're incredibly outdated and basically contain nothing that modern scripts do, but you know, they're there, I suppose. So to get rolling, all you need to do is follow these steps. It looks like a lot, but it's really not all that complicated. Step 1 is downloading and installing AHK. I'm pretty sure nowadays you can just install the v2 beta. I don't think you need 1.1 anymore, but I've just left it here just in case because I'm too lazy to uninstall it and check for myself. Then you just need to download an editor of your choice. I recommend either Notepad++ or VS Code, with VS Code being the preference, as there's a lovely AutoHotkey extension to get syntax highlighting that works really, really well and is updated frequently. Then you can go ahead and download these scripts by either checking out the latest release page or by cloning the repo yourself, whether it be in VS Code or your Git manager of choice, and then saving them wherever you wish. With a little asterisk here that some Stream Deck AHK scripts still have hard-coded directories that are intended for my workflow and may error out if you try to run them from a different location, or if you just run them and they try to reference a folder or something that doesn't exist on your computer. So if you run into one of those little niche cases, do feel free to go into the code and see what's going on, but it should be pretty not often. That's not English, but yeah, but you shouldn't run into that a whole lot. Then there are 2 little steps here that can help you customize My Scripts to yourself in your own workflow. The first of which being keyboardshortcuts.ini, which is a INI file to help you set your own keyboard shortcuts for programs such as Premiere and After Effects, that then fills in some variables that gets used in basically all the other scripts, so that if you change a hotkey or use a different hotkey to me, you don't have to go searching through all of my macros and all of my scripts to change that input. You just need to adjust the INI file, and then that variable will get updated script-wide. So we'll take a look at that soon, but then next you can take a look at the general.ahk file and then the class PTF, which stands for point to file, which allows you to adjust all assigned file paths. So what I mean by that is right at the top of general.ahk is a whole bunch of directories and file locations. And these just help link to things that get mentioned in the scripts. So for example, the root directory is the working dir, and then a whole bunch of stuff gets built off of that working directory. You'll see here settings location is your My Documents folder with then a Tomshi folder. And then here you'll see a couple of those files that may conk out if you try to use them in your own PC if those folders don't exist. I have no idea why this is like this, because that I don't think is like that here. It's not. Okay, cool. What the heck, dude? And yeah, you get the idea. So these are all folder paths or directory paths, I guess you could say. And then these are all file locations. And then these will just get used in all of the scripts, basically. Anytime that I have to link directly to a directory or a file, we want to use something in here, not a hard-coded path, just so that if it inevitably changes at some point in the future, we can adjust this value and not search through a bunch of different scripts to change that value everywhere. So then once you've done that, you can simply run My Scripts.ahk, which is the main hub script. It should then handle changing the root directory for you, and then everything should work as intended. You can then go ahead and edit and run any of the other AHK files to your liking. With a quick little tip here, if you've run My Scripts.ahk and you want to go through and run any of the other scripts, by default, press the Windows button and F2, or I guess hold Windows and then press F2, and you'll get this lovely script. For you, it should look like this with everything disabled. You can then come along and just tick the ones that you want turned on and then go for gold. Pretty much good to go after that. Then there's just a little information here on how you can make these scripts run at your startup of your computer, but chances are if you're here, you probably already know how to do that. Then there's just a little warning here that you can read at your own time. And yeah, from there, you should pretty much be good to go. But what if you've gotten this far and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm overwhelmed. What's this KSA thing? How do I know where to get started? What are some hotkeys to get me going? First, I would say slow the heck down. But then let's take a look at KSA. So you see here on the repo, it says you do not need to run this script. It gets included in functions.ahk, which then gets included in basically a whole bunch of other scripts. Keyboard shortcut adjustments is to bring quick and easy support to adjust keyboard shortcuts within scripts without needing to dig into the code for each individual function or macro. With the addition of keyboard shortcuts to INI, you're able to quickly go in and adjust any keyboard shortcut and have it instantly reflect within any scripts that use it. Keeping in mind that if you change something, you need to reload the scripts, as these values only get read once. Alongside this INI file is the companion keyboard shortcut adjustments HK file, which is where we create the variables we then call later from other scripts. So first what we do is define the hotkey within the INI file, like so. This is using just basic INI structure. So this is your section, this is your key, and this is your value. So you'll see here in Premiere, we've got effect controls, and then our hotkey is Control-Shift-4. So because AHK v2 wants things in quotes, we have this send input shortcut hotkey, whatever the heck, in quotation marks. Then within the keyboard shortcuts adjustments file, you will see the HK file, that is, you'll see this. Oh, I never changed this. I thought I did. Oh, I didn't. Oh, god damn it, dude. All right, let's look at it here because over there is wrong. When you look in the HK file, you'll see this. Effect controls is an INI read with that point to file link to the KSA INI file, and then the Premiere section, and then the effect controls panel. And then that way we can use this variable that we've created, effect controls, in any other script that has that KSA file included, and it will send Control-Shift-4. That way, if later down the line I want to change my hotkey within Premiere to open the effect controls panel, I can just change this, reload the script, and then everything else will work as expected. Very useful and very helpful, and allows you as the user to quickly go in and change things away from my settings, or change them if you ever change things, without it being a hassle and a very long and tedious process. So those are the basics. Now, you've downloaded my scripts, and you're presented with this exe file. You've got a basic idea of what to do once you get it all going, but how the heck do you get it all going? And what the heck is this exe file anyway? It's a bit sketchy. These exe files are a compiled version of a compressed zip folder of the release, a lib folder by Thigbee to unzip zip files, HotkeyReplacer.ahk, which gets included in every release that I send out, and a README file. So what you'll see is when you press this, it's going to extract all those files, and then it's going to automatically unzip that zip folder and then just delete all the stuff that it doesn't need anymore. Like so. It's kind of a blink and you miss it kind of thing. From here, you've got Hotkey Replacer and the release of the scripts. So what the heck is Hotkey Replacer? Well, let's go over the README. If this is your first time downloading my scripts, you can simply ignore the HotkeyReplacer.ahk file and move the release folder wherever you wish, and feel free to rename it. Then try running the My Scripts.ahk to get started, like we mentioned before. If you have downloaded My Scripts before, you can run the installer script and point it towards your directory, ensuring your copy of My Scripts.ahk is still named as such, and that your keyboard shortcuts INI file is still in the correct place. The installer script will then check to see if you've changed any of the hotkeys in My Scripts.ahk, as well as any of the shortcuts in keyboard shortcuts.ini. and it will then replace the release versions of each with your custom hotkeys and shortcuts. A backup of the original release versions of My Scripts.ahk and keyboard shortcuts.ini will be saved in the backups folder of the release, just in case something goes wrong. And then there's a little warning there that says Windows Defender may have a red hot complaint about the release.exe file even after you've used it and attempt to remove it. And it goes on to explain that it's just a compiled version of my scripts alongside the 7-zip AHK lib by Thigby that allows me to include the repo in a zip file that then gets automatically extracted when you run the release.exe. And there's a cute little Yoshi. So basically, if you have changed any of those keyboard shortcut ini stuff and you don't want to have to like manually change it every time I update the repo or whatnot, you can use this handy tool to point it towards your working directory. It will then go through and do everything and then close itself. And then you'll see in the release folder, there's a whole bunch of ini files that have generated themselves that have gone through and determined all of the hotkeys, all of the activation keys for those hotkeys, then all the KSA stuff, and all of the values for the KSA stuff. So that's cool. That helps you get going where you need to go nice and fast. But then you can take this release folder, move it, change the name of it, whatever you want. And I recommend, as I mentioned before, double-clicking on this My Scripts.ahk file. You'll see this tray tip appear down the bottom that say that it's attempting to replace references to the installation directory with the user's installation directory. This is supposed to get rid of itself, but tray tips are weird, so it might not do that. You can just tell it to go away and then it will say it's finished. Haha, crazy. Yeah, tray tips are dumb. Anyway, once you've got My Scripts running, you'll be presented with this lovely GUI. This GUI is congratulating you because you've managed to get My Scripts to load without any runtime errors, hopefully. You've taken the first steps to really getting the most out of these scripts. This GUI then goes on to basically run you through what these scripts can do and how to get started, basically telling you how the install directory has been changed to the current working directory. And then when you get down to the bottom here, it's telling you that you can activate these buttons down here to get some more out of these scripts to get started. So let's go from right to left. The first thing it's going to tell you to do is press this handy hotkeys button, which is a GUI that you can activate at any time to run through some default hotkeys to go over some pretty useful macros. These include things like the settings menu, the active scripts GUI that we brought up before, the ability to reload the scripts, hard reload the scripts, the panic button that lets you automatically close all running AHK scripts, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch in here. I recommend going through it. Then there's a what to do button that basically just rehashes the Wiki page. And then the settings button that pulls up the settings ini. This can be activated at any time with the Windows F1 combination of keys and allows you to adjust a whole bunch of settings that get referenced across a whole bunch of my scripts, basically. It would take a whole lot of time to go through all of these, so I recommend just teetering through with these in your own time if you care. If not, the defaults are pretty useful. If you're intending to work within Premiere and After Effects, this is probably your more important thing. Keeping these values correct with your versions of the programs is really important because a lot of my scripts rely on the title of those windows, and that title will obviously change depending on which version of the programs you are running. So once you're done with this first run of the scripts, you can simply close this and you'll see the scripts are starting to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Then it will be done. And that's it. You're now ready to get started. Again, pressing that Windows F2 will bring up this, which allows you to quickly turn on the other scripts. And from here, you're basically ready to rock and roll. Keeping in mind, of course, that this QMK keyboard script only works if you have a secondary keyboard like I do, which, of course, if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, is explained in the QMK wiki page. From here, it's up to you to basically go through the different pages of the wiki or the scripts themselves, figure out what's going on. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. Things like game check or multi-instance close useful. Right-click Premiere is probably the most used script that I have. Allows you to quickly move the playhead within Premiere with the click of a button. And of course, if you're an Adobe user, the Adobe section to go through all the functions that I have will be very useful to you as well. Most of my scripts that interact with Windows can be found in the My Scripts.ahk script. There's a whole bunch here that do a whole lot of different things. Definitely recommend going through them at your own pace. There's no point in me going through them individually in this video because chances are within a month, this video will be extremely outdated if I do that. So the more basic and streamlined I keep this video, the better. And then it allows me to update it more easily in the future as well. So just a rehash. The The main README contains a whole lot of useful information, including what happens at the startup of the scripts. Actually, this needs to be adjusted. I just realized it doesn't have the lib check function there, but that's fine. And then anything that isn't covered here is covered in the wiki page. And with that, you've basically got all the information you could ever need. If you come across any problems, feel free to try and fix them yourself. Or if it's maybe a bit beyond you, feel free to create an issue on the GitHub page. If you have any ideas or any scripts to improve my scripts, feel free to create a pull request. Other than that, happy scripting and good luck going faster, I guess.